fourth episode in the series on diabetes. In case you missed my first 3 episodes, I'll include the links in the description box below. The first one was, what do I eat if I have diabetes? The second one was, how much do I eat? The third one was, how do I read a nutrition label? And today, for our fourth episode, what we're going to talk about is how many carbs, the reality of the amount of carbs in some of the restaurant food that you might be eating. So let's get started. Do you ever stop to grab a fast food burger combo with a burger and fries and a drink? It seems pretty harmless, but have you ever looked up the nutrition information? By the way, if you haven't and you're interested in seeing the numbers for yourself, all you have to do is Google the name of the chain restaurant and nutrition. And you'll typically pull up PDFs that have calorie information, total fat, all of the different elements that you would expect to see on a nutrition label on a food product. So here is your typical burger combo meal, and would you believe that the burger has 58 grams of carbs? The order of medium fries that usually comes with the combo has 47 grams of carbs. And the medium drink that comes with the combo typically has anywhere between 100 to 150 grams of carbs. So I just put the average here of 125. This gives us a grand total of 230 grams of carbs. Shocking, isn't it? Let me put that number into perspective. The goal for most adults with diabetes per meal is 45 to 60 grams of carbs. So 230 grams of carbs is well over what you need for your 3 meals a day. I have something I want to show you to put those 230 grams of carbs into perspective. This is the amount of sugar that those 230 grams of carbs would break down into. It's actually 66 packets of sugar that it would break down into in the body. Because remember, as you saw on episode 1 of this series, or if you didn't, check in the description box below so you can catch that episode, anything with carbohydrate breaks down into sugar in the body. And so when you have this combo meal, you're looking at this much sugar in your body. And of course that gets absorbed into the bloodstream and raises your blood sugar or your blood glucose level. This is where making some modifications can help you to fall within this range. Now I do want to also add that it's very, very important to work with your personal registered dietitian nutritionist because everyone is different. This is just a guideline. Most adults with diabetes should typically consume anywhere between 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per meal. However, if you have diabetes and you exercise, or you experience frequent lows, or if you're pregnant and have gestational diabetes or diabetes in pregnancy, then those recommendations may be different for you. So always speak to your personal registered dietitian. One of the best things that you can do right off is, rather than getting the regular drink, get a bottle of water or ask for a cup so that you can get some water. And water has 0 grams of carbs, so you can never go wrong with this. Now if you're thinking, Amanda, I really want to have something with flavor, I enjoy having something with flavor with my meals, then I would suggest going for the unsweet tea, which has 0 grams of carbs. Now if you just absolutely have to add sweetener, choose one of the carbohydrate-free sweeteners such as Splenda, Sweet and Low, Equal, or any of those stevia that are available on the market. Now, rather than eating the fries, which don't have a whole lot of nutritional value, they're loaded with lots of fat because they're deep fried, so they soak up all that oil, and they have salt on them too. I would suggest swapping out this beautiful side salad. And the beauty of this side salad is it has lots of nutrition, so much fiber, so many nutrients that give your body what you actually need, and it comes at 0 grams of carbs. So it really helps you stick within that budget, if you want to think of it that way, of 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. So now we're looking at 58 grams of carbs for this meal, and that's much better. Now, I will tell you, if they do have a smaller or junior version of their regular burger, go for that. At this particular fast food restaurant, they have a junior burger that has only 35 grams of carbs. So that helps really bring that carbohydrate down, especially if you're trying to cut back on your carbs to achieve your blood glucose goals. So remember, don't just take my word for it. As you make these modifications, take your blood sugar before your meal and take your blood sugar after the meal, and look at how your numbers change and how they rise. If you wear a continuous glucose monitor, that's even better, because you're probably getting a glucose reading every 5 minutes, and you can see how the carbohydrates that you eat are impacting your blood sugars or your blood glucose levels. So when you make these modifications, and in particular, if you go with the junior version of the burger, which has only 35 grams of carbs, and by the way, you can make that double meat, because remember, the protein does not raise your blood sugar. At 35 grams of carbs, you're only getting the equivalent of 10 packets of sugar in your bloodstream. Now, if you do decide to go with the regular burger, that's fine too. That would be 58 grams of carbs, and it falls within that typical guideline of consuming 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. And that 58 grams of carbs is going to turn into about 6 packets of sugar in the body. Now, you might think it's better to avoid carbs altogether to help achieve good blood sugar or blood glucose control, but the truth is twofold. One is that in all my experience working with clients for over a decade now, I found that it is so difficult to sustain a change like that where you're completely avoiding carbs long term. And it really decreases your quality of life, especially during the holidays when there are all of those favorite foods at the table and you just feel deprived. So that's one reason why I don't recommend being so restrictive. And the other reason is that carbohydrates really are the preferred fuel for the brain. And you might notice, if you've ever cut out carbs or maybe didn't have any carbs available to you at a meal, that you might get a headache afterwards. And that's because the brain really does run optimally on carbohydrates and the sugars that those carbs break down into in the body. So don't feel guilty about including carbs. Certainly cutting back can help you to achieve your blood sugar goals, but you don't need to be deprived in the process. Do you ever grab a sub sandwich combo? I know these are also really convenient when you're short on time. You might get a sub sandwich and then the bag of chips and drink that typically comes with it. But did you know that the average sub sandwich that's 6 inches has about 43 grams of carbohydrate? And then that grab bag of chips that you get has 22 grams of carbs. And the soda has about 100 grams of carbs. In total, we're looking at about 165 grams of carbs. And that turns into about 47 packets of sugar in the body. Imagine what that's going to do to your blood sugar. So here's some suggestions and tips for bringing that carbohydrate content of this meal down so that it's more diabetes friendly. First of all, just like with the burger combo, what I suggest is, rather than getting that regular beverage, go with water. That is the best thing for your body. That is how we hydrate ourselves. Our body is over 75% water, so you always want to be hydrating your body. And in particular, if your blood sugars have been running high, you need even more water than the average person. So you just can't go wrong with this. But if you say, I gotta have something with flavor, again, I recommend the unsweet tea. And if you just absolutely have to have a soda, make it a diet or zero soda, because that does contain no carbs or 0 grams of carbs. Now, rather than the potato chips or whatever chips that you typically choose, I would suggest going for the chicken noodle soup. Now, this might surprise you, and honestly, I was quite surprised when I was looking at the nutrition information online that the chicken noodle soup, of all the soups that this particular chain offers, was the one lowest in carbohydrate. In fact, the cup of soup only contains 11 grams of carbs, so that does save you some carbs right there. Another suggestion that I've gotten from clients in the past is that they'll ask for their 6-inch sub to be carved. And what that means is whoever's building the sandwich will open up the bread and they'll kind of pull out some of that excess bread that's in the middle, and that helps to lower the carbohydrate content. Now at this particular chain, you also have the option to go for a salad. So they'll put all the contents of the sub sandwich in a salad for you, and those salads, according to their website, have about 11 grams of carbs. So these are all ways to cut back on the carbs. If you just love your bread, that's fine. You can stick with that. 43 grams of carbs here, 11 grams of carbs from the chicken noodle soup. So you're looking at 54 grams of carbs. And that turns into about 15 packets of sugar like this in your body. So much, much better than the original 47 packets of sugar that you would get if you went with the way the combo typically comes. Please know that all of the carbohydrate counts that I'm sharing with you are actually the total carbohydrate listed on the restaurant's website with the dietary fiber subtracted, so that you see the total amount of carbs that will actually raise your blood sugar or blood glucose levels. Now for more on this, look at the description box below so you can watch my video on how to read nutrition labels. When you have the time, do you enjoy going to a Mexican restaurant for a sit-down meal? Well, here in South Texas, we really do, and one of the most popular meals is to request a plate of enchiladas. And of course, it typically comes with rice and beans, and when you sit down at the restaurant, the waitstaff typically welcomes you with a really nice hearty serving of chips and salsa. So what are we looking at in terms of the amount of carbs in a meal like this? Well, the good news is the salsa has no carbs at all, but the chips can be kind of tricky, because if you think about it, one corn tortilla typically has anywhere between 10 to 15 grams of carbs. And if you imagine this tortilla divided in 4, that's about 4 chips. So you can see how quickly those carbs add up whenever you're dipping them into the salsa. They really, really do add up quickly. So you have to be careful with the amount that you get. Now, if you have about 2 handfuls, which would probably be about 8 chips, you're looking at 30 grams of carbohydrate for that serving of chips. The enchilada plate typically comes with 3 enchiladas, and each one has about 15 grams of carbs, again, because of that corn tortilla. So you're looking at 45 grams of carbohydrate for the enchiladas, and then the serving of rice is about 2/3 of a cup at most restaurants, which is about 30 grams of carbs. And the serving of beans, it just really depends if they bring the beans out in a bowl and they're the whole beans, or if they're refried beans and spread out. But what I've seen on average is about a cup, and so that's another 30 grams of carbs. So for this meal, you're looking at 135 grams of carbs, and that turns into about 38 packets of sugar in the body. Remember, we're aiming for 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. So what can we do to meet this goal when we're having enchiladas, rice, and beans? One idea is to go ahead and split this meal with a loved one. If you cut this meal in half, you go from 135 grams of carbs to about 68 grams of carbs. So that's just a little bit over that recommended 45 to 60 grams of carbs that we talked about per meal. If you don't want to do that, you can always pack up half of the meal and take it to go, especially if you're eating by yourself during your lunch break. If you prefer to just swap out a few things, I have some suggestions for you. I know it's hard, but if you can skip the chips and salsa, what I would recommend is to ask for what we call here in South Texas a principio. And the principio is a little cup of vegetable soup, and it's all non-starchy vegetables, so it contains no carbohydrate. So it has things like cabbage, carrots, onions, calabaza or Mexican squash, cilantro. You can squeeze some fresh lime in there. It has so much great flavor and lots of spices to give it that great flavor. And the wonderful thing about it from a nutrition standpoint is that you're loading up on that fiber that fills you. You're getting tons of nutrients from all the vegetables. And the best part is that it contains no carbohydrate whatsoever, so it will not raise your blood sugar. I don't even have a beverage pictured here, but just like we've been talking about, the best thing that you can have with your meal is water all the time. You'll never go wrong with this. You can squeeze fresh lemon or lime in there. You can put cucumber slices in there, whatever's available just to give it that great flavor. And it does not have any kind of impact on your blood sugar. And in fact, if your blood sugars have been running high, can actually help to bring them down. Now, the final thing I will say is we're still a little over on the carbs even with those changes. So if you can, pick between the rice or the beans. Which one's your favorite? Pick one or the other, or have half of each and take the rest home for later. That will help get you down to about 75 grams of carbs. Now I know that's still about 15 grams of carbs over what we've been talking about. That recommended 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. But what I would tell you is you have a couple things you can do. One is at your next meal. So for example, if this is at lunch, at dinner time, just cut back. Have a lower carb meal. Just really load up on protein and vegetables instead and watch the amount of carbs that you're having. So that can kind of help compensate for, going a little overboard at lunch. The other thing you can do is take a walk afterwards. Have you ever gone exercising and checked your blood sugar before and afterwards, or watched how it trends on your continuous glucose monitor? It really is amazing. I've had clients tell me in the past that exercise can help drop their blood sugar up to 1 point per minute. So if you do a 15-minute walk, you're looking at about a 15-point drop in your blood sugars. 30-minute walk, about a 30-point drop in your blood sugars. And of course, everybody's different, so you can monitor your blood sugars either by checking them or by wearing a continuous glucose monitor to see the impact that the exercise has on your body. These are just some suggestions for modifying 3 meals that you might eat at restaurants to really help cut back on the carbohydrate content and help you achieve your blood sugar or blood glucose goals. If you love enchiladas and you're interested in making a lighter version at home, check out my video, Enchiladas Done Light. I'll include the link in the description box below so you can see that. And I also have more tips on how to create a more balanced meal that helps support healthy blood sugar or blood glucose levels. That's it. I hope this has been helpful. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Leave me a comment to let me know what you learned. Share this video with a family member or friend that you think might benefit from it. And subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications on my latest videos. Make sure when you click subscribe that you select the option for receiving all alerts so you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you right here in the kitchen with the dietitian next time.